Good afternoon, football fans. Memorial Stadium on another great afternoon for football.
It's football day in Nebraska, and 1620 The Zone and 1019 The Keg are live from Lincoln. This is 1620 The Pregame, a look ahead to today's Husker game. 1620 The Pregame is presented by Chandler Conway, personal injury attorneys you can trust. Now from the Blur Parties tailgate at Memorial Stadium, here's John Bishop and Michael Severe.
He's in there, touchdown!
On a day where Nebraska can start changing some narratives earlier this week, the future was made clear.
Very grateful to the fan base. I'm very grateful to the city of Lincoln and the state of Nebraska. This has become our home, and we love it here. And most importantly, I'm grateful for our players. You know, I was at a point 3 years ago when they hired me here where I'd gone through something hard. And I know people sometimes think, well, you're well compensated for it, but I can just tell you those things can break people. And, you know, I've rediscovered my love of this game and coaching and all that with these guys that are here. And so, you know, this process went on. I think I was very honest with you guys the first day. We've wanted to be here and we expect to be here for a long time. And we have much, much, much more to do. And we're not pleased with where we are, but we are pleased with the direction we're headed. And I think that's hopefully a message that we can send to all of the recruits, all the players, that this is the place to be. And we want to be here.
It has been quite the week here in Lincoln. It was going to be quite the week no matter what happened behind closed doors. But now that the week has reached its end, its true peak, we're going to find out today a little bit more about what progress looks like.
I know where the program's going, and I'm highly confident where the program's going to go from here. But we aren't there yet. And you know, we talk about the investments that we're making from a recruitment and retention standpoint. You know, we have to continue to we've made a lot of investments in the last 18 months in staff. We're not done there. You know, we've got to have, you know, you're no better than your weakest link. We got to make sure our weakest link, the floor is really, really high. And so continue to make those improvements. But we're in a whole lot better place, I think, than, you know, even when I got here. And I think the expectations are, I know how we're recruiting. I know how young this roster is. And I know where the players were in day one, and I know where they're at today. All I see is progress.
Today, a college playoff opportunity will evaporate for the loser. A chill unknown to the visitor is in the air. The town is painted in a very different color. The players and patrons hope that they are dressed appropriately to bury a 28-game losing streak versus ranked teams. But the visitors believe that they're actually dressed to mourn another Nebraska missed opportunity. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Blur Events tailgate right across the street from the Old Gray Lady at 10th and Vine. And it's going to be an Old Gray Lady weather night tonight as the number 23 USC Trojans visit the Nebraska Cornhuskers. John Bishop, Michael Severe, producer Nick Grimm here on site, Joey Colbert running the dials back in Omaha. Michael, it has been another interesting week, just like it was a couple weeks ago. But unlike the week a couple of weeks ago, this one ended not with uncertainty, but with certainty and positive certainty that you've got Matt Rule locked down for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I'm not sure if ever the controversy or the doubt or the rumors and all of that actually affected the team. I don't know how much that affected the 18 to 24-year-olds. I really don't. There's no way for me to know that. But I do know that I think it affected the fan base and it affected the people in that administration in North Stadium and all of that. I think it affected them in a way, and I know they feel better about it. This is a simple game today. You either beat that bitch or you get bitched. Those are your two choices. There are none other ones. You don't go in today and beat something that has been wearing you down since 2016. What do you have in you? You have everything working for you. You're at home. It's chilly. They haven't won a game in years, USC, under 60 degrees. They don't play well on the road. You got the All Blacks. Everybody's fired up. You got alcohol in the stadium now. No excuse not to be fired up during the game. If you don't win this, when will you win this?
Well, we'll try to answer some of those questions here this afternoon over the next 2 hours here on 1620 The Zone and 1019 The Keg. We have alluded to the fact that, yes, there is a blackout tonight. I can report anecdotally on my way into the stadium today and here at the Blur Events tailgate, those of you who were fretting about, oh, no one's going to wear black, but it's not going to look right.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to have to worry too much about it. I am right now looking out amongst the crowd, and I see 1 red jacket, 2 red jackets, 3 red jackets, 4 red jackets, 5. I see 6 red jackets, and most
they may
of those
not even
people,
go to the game.
And they may not go to the game. Also, most of them are wearing something black underneath those jackets. So, there you go. The blackout call worked. Don't worry about it. Now let's see if Nebraska can actually win one of these gimmick games.
I was in the stadium before when I first got in. I got way too early. And I'm in the stadium. The band is all in black, which is really cool.
Wait a second. So they don't travel them on the road, but they can give them different uniforms.
They have on black.
Good grief.
And it looks awesome. The inn looks great. We have determined through a survey of about 6 people.
Yeah.
That
6?
6 people. That's all that was up there. It was 6 people.
Oh, okay.
It was Coatney. It was me. It was Babcock. It was what is the one kid's name from just real good tape guy, whatever his name is. He was there, and we all determined this: turn the inn back to red, and keep the end zones black
forever.
But if you want to go Sandlot, sure, forever, yes.
Why?
I think because it looks awesome. And I think
black
it's easier.
Is not one of our colors.
I think it's easier to see, but once you go black, you can't go back.
Yes,
Listen,
you
I'm
can.
looking at it, and I'm saying it looks better, and maybe it's easier to figure out where you are in the end zone
Well, okay.
if they're black.
Oh, so is the border still red?
No, it's white.
The whole border is white. The
No,
end
it's
zone border?
everything's black and white. There's no red at all.
No. But I'm talking about the border outside the end zones. You know, the one where Isaiah Hunter got confused.
Well, that's
against
black.
Michigan. So that's black too.
It's black
so they
and
still
white.
screwed that up.
It's black
Good grief.
and a white stripe, which
I need a little white stripe.
White stripe all the way across, and then you have all the flags are black, which they'll go back to being red.
Yeah.
But you take the end, you make the end red, and you keep the end zones black for the rest. It's a tribute, as Mike Babcock said.
A tribute to who?
Hold on. If you are Mike, you're going to doubt the historian of this program. The historian. He's written more books than anybody else. He said a tribute to the black shirts. He said it would be a tribute to the black shirts having the black end zones. That's what he said.
What happens if they give up 45 today?
Then we take away their black jerseys.
But we don't take away the black end zones.
Listen, they're not going to keep it the same. I'm just telling you, it looks really good.
Okay.
And among the 6 people who were up there,
6 people,
we agreed.
Well, that's true. I mean, it's roughly about that percentage of people that determine the Nielsen rating. So
it was a quorum.
I guess 6 is enough.
It's about 10% of the population. It's a little more to do Nielsen rating.
Yeah, a little bit, I guess.
Yeah.
1620 the pregame. Oh, as always, presented by Chandler Conway, Nebraska Personal Injury Oilers you can trust. And Blur Parties, learn more about all their events and future tailgates at blurevents.com. Let's take a look at our warm-up today. Rule is locked in.
Yeah.
But is the team? We'll find out. Handling the best offense in college football, in quotes. Emmett, and more Emmett.
Yeah.
Could that be the game plan tonight for the offense? Hey, we are not going to forget the third phase.
No, hell no.
Special teams.
Yep.
Our Husker History Mystery features a monumental moment when the end zones weren't black. And big college football Saturday, there's already been stress and upset for ranked teams.
Right.
Maybe that's an omen for tonight. Oh, and speaking of ranked, we're going to dive into those numbers against ranked teams, especially Matt Rules.
Yeah.
Because tonight not only represents an opportunity for Nebraska and a program 28-game losing streak against the AP Top 25, but Matt Rule as a coach, as going back to his Temple days, is 0 for his last 18. So we'll take a look at all of that stuff today in our warm-up here from 1620, the pregame.
And don't forget, the Grok has already predicted a 28-20 loss by Nebraska the game. They're up 28-21, but somehow Miller Moss and the rushing game helps USC to win it 28-20.
I didn't know Grok was supposed to predict the future.
I know. I get it every week. I never really pay attention to it. This week it stood out because Miller Moss's name is in it, and they lose a point. somewhere during the game. So I don't know what that reverse rouge is that they're doing now. But, yeah, that was posted on my Twitter page today. I don't know why.
Goodness.
But, yeah, it's very strange. And, like I said, Grok is on crack.
All right, so question of this segment.
Mm-hmm.
Is Nebraska prepared to handle this weird week better than they were the weird week a couple of weeks ago? Again,
when they were on the road?
I can't argue yay or nay that the uncertainty of Matt Rule and Penn State didn't play a factor. But there's no question that the head coach at least had his mind on other things besides USC this week. After all, he did sign a 2-year contract extension. So at least for a little bit, there was some distraction. So,
well, his agent worked on that, you'd hope.
His agent worked on it.
The agent works on it, yeah.
But we also know that Matt Rule was working the phones as well. So, is there a concern that there was any diversion of the week for USC? Here was Matt Rule on Thursday, the day that the extension was signed, because he was asked about, well, is this going to be another week where the team might have its thoughts elsewhere?
Been outside the whole time, and the guys have attacked it and embraced it. You know, sometimes I think people think like, well, Coach, you're from the north. You're not. We're all just this cold, but the guys are showing toughness and resilience, and they've worked on their fundamentals and techniques. As you get late in the year, there's a great guy. If you guys don't follow Dan Casey, Coach Dan Casey on Twitter, you should. He's one of the best people in terms of football follows. And he had a great thing about reteaching scheme, reteaching fundamentals. Like, I keep talking to our guys about don't let the creep come in of like, you're just used to be like this low and now you're a little bit higher because you're tired late in the year. And I feel like the guys have embraced this week of just getting back to fundamentals. You're playing a team this week coming off a bye. So, you're a little banged up. They're fresh. You better be dialed in, and they've been dialed in all week.
It's an interesting point that Matt Rule makes, because I don't think a lot has been said about that, Michael, and that is USC has played 2 games in the last 4 weeks.
Right.
They had an idle week before Notre Dame, then played Michigan, played Michigan, then Notre Dame, then had the idle week last week, and played this week, while Nebraska is in the 4th week of 5 games in a row. So, yes, there is a rest advantage for USC. What did you think of Matt Rule saying, you know what, this week was obviously about preparing for USC, but it was also about dialing in back to those fundamentals?
Yeah, I will say this about USC. Rest is great. It is wonderful, especially this late in the year. But there are certain offenses that do not cater to rest.
Yeah.
Mike Leach, for example, was a much worse offensive coach after rest, because you lose, especially when you're a bunch of a timing offense that goes at a good pace. A lot of times, if you have rest, whatever reason, I've seen the numbers for Mike Leach and everybody underneath them. And I'm not saying Lincoln Riley is that kind of offense, but it's similar because they do go at a decent pace and it is very rhythmic. So I don't know. They could be a little off. I wouldn't be surprised. Plus, remember this. They took a beating against Notre Dame. I'm sure they spent the whole week after going, how the hell are we going to stop the run the rest of the season when we cannot stop Notre Dame, who got over 300 yards rushing? I'm sure they spent a lot of time doing that. They probably were in their books and going over everything. So I think they're coming in without a lot of confidence, and I'm not sure if they're going to be in rhythm because they've been off. That's what I believe about USC. For Nebraska, I agree with that point where you have to get back to fundamentals the later you get in the season. I listen to Coach Osborne talk about it all the time. The way they worked towards their goals, it was always to beat Oklahoma at the end of the year, yes, but they were working. How do we get over 6 yards a carry? How do we get over 30 yards difference in our net punting? And you're working towards, and it's getting better each week. Not worse, like Nebraska's been. Right. Put the great numbers up in the non-conference, and then all of a sudden drop off. They want it to go the other direction. I think that's what he's talking about.
Just looking real quick under Lincoln Riley, there's only been 3 examples where they've been on the road following a bye. Last year they lost at Michigan by 3, and then they won games at Arizona State, at Arizona the prior 2 seasons. So, I mean, it's a very small sample size
I'd be
as far as coming off a bye.
How good the quarterback was in those games, because that's who loses the rhythm.
Right.
Because the wide receiver relationship with the quarterback is so important in his system. I wonder if that dropped off. So, and I know it drops off on the road alone. You can look at those numbers and see they drop off, but I wonder after a bye if it's dropped off quarterback numbers.
Now, it should be noted that USC coming off a bye did beat Michigan 31-13, but they were home in that game. So that's that's the second example. Last year, remember, in this same game, USC was coming off an idle week, and they pivoted to Maava for that game.
Yes.
So they are 2-0 in their last 2 games coming off a bye. But last year, Maava was in his very, very first game as a starter.
home.
This year, he's basically completed the circle. This will now be a full season of starts this year. So, yeah, there's a lot of things. It's not a great sample size,
No.
but certainly it will be something worth watching. There's a lot of interesting sidebar storylines about this game that all have to do with the psychological. Of course, for Nebraska, it's the losing streak against the AP Top 25. It's playing and getting up for these gimmick games where they're wearing different uniforms.
I'm saying that.
It's a gimmick. I'm
It's not
sorry.
a gimmick.
It is a gimmick.
It's not a gimmick.
Yes,
It's
it is.
not. It's a choice to make for the recruiting.
gimmicks
to make
are a
money.
choice.
It's not a gimmick. No,
Choice.
it's a gimmick.
Gimmicks are a choice.
That's ridiculous.
Yes,
That's
gimmicks are
ridiculous. It's
I'm not
ridiculous to
saying
call it a gimmick. A
I'm
gimmick
not-
is not a good thing, John.
No.
A gimmick is
No, I
a
disagree.
gimmick is a bad thing.
No, it's
You
not.
totally do a gimmick. You know what a gimmick is? Pizza Hut putting pepperoni in the crust because they make any pizza. That's a gimmick. A gimmick
No,
is when you have to
I
go
disagree.
and you go to be the Iron Sheik because we hate Iran. That's a gimmick. It's a bad thing. It's not a good thing, John.
No,
It's not.
I
Every time
disagree.
you call it
I
a gimmick,
disagree. A
You're
gimmick-
making fun of doing something.
No,
that
I
is
am not making fun of it.
inspirational
I am not
Yes, you
making
are.
fun of it.
It's not a
Gimmick
good thing.
Gimmick is a gimmick. It's something
Gimmick
you do.
has a bad
It's
connotation. It does.
Not to me, it doesn't. It
Well,
never
don't
has
care.
to me.
The word has a bad connotation.
I've
Doesn't
never
matter
heard
if you-
that.
It
I've
does.
never
a
heard
gimmick.
that.
You had to get a gimmick to beat somebody. That's insulting your ability to beat somebody. That's used all the time. When somebody runs a trick play, which is a gimmick play, people talk about it saying you have to do that because you can't do the regular things to beat somebody. When is gimmick is a good thing?
I disagree. I think a gimmick is when you divert from the norm.
Because you can't do the norm.
So you're saying all those times that Tom Osborne ran a trick play against Oklahoma, they did it because they couldn't win with
I'm
the norm.
saying they needed that to win. Yes. Yes. That's what trick plays are.
I disagree, but whatever. Either way, they have not performed well when they wear alternate jerseys. Let's say that. That's some of the things that are on Nebraska's side. With USC, it's the weather. It's being on the road. Those are things they've got to deal with. So somebody
Are
tonight.
those mental, you think, or are those physical?
I think
is
it can be both.
Is the weather physical?
Weather can be physical. Weather can also be mental if you're not used to it and if you let it get to you.
Yeah, I think that's
So I
that's-
think it can be both.
Yeah, I think that's the physical thing is you're not used to it. And I know even Monday here in Nebraska, I think if you ask people, how did you feel today? They would have said, man, I was
cold.
really freezing. And it was only in the 50s. Why? Because it'd been in the 80s or 70s week before, right?
Right.
So they're leaving the 80s on Wednesday and coming here to the 50s.
Well,
it's going to feel like more
They
than 30 degrees
practiced. They practiced at 93 earlier this week.
earlier this week.
So
yes.
it was very,
Yeah.
very warm
Yeah.
there. I'll
It
be
kinda
curious.
cooled off as
I'll
it
be
went over.
curious to see if USC
Because
spent
they're wearing
any
hoodies.
extra time outside wearing hoodies.
That'd be funny.
Spent any extra time when they got here outdoors, and if they're going to try to get to the field earlier today just to get acclimated
Do you
to
know
it.
when they got here?
I don't know when they got here.
See, in my mind, I would have definitely made sure I was here Thursday night, Friday morning.
I don't think we talked to Pete Arbogast Thursday afternoon. They hadn't left. Now we didn't ask him when they were
Thursday
leaving.
afternoon?
So I think they arrived sometime Friday afternoon. That'd be my guess
Huh.
because I don't think they left on Thursday night.
I would have wanted to get it with as poorly as they played on the road. I would have wanted to be here early.
Yeah.
Earlier than that.
Yeah.
If it was me.
Now I'll say this. Went for a walk this morning. Granted, it was cooler then than it is right now, but it'll be somewhat similar to weather that we will experience at kickoff time tonight.
Right.
No, there was not a lot of wind, but even with light winds, it had just a little bite in the air, especially when you were kind of in the open. In this stadium, you're out in the open. And so there might be, even though the winds are not expected to be brisk, I can't see the flags moving right now on the north end of the stadium. Even if the wind is like it was this
2
morning,
miles an hour.
when it was, I would estimate 5 to 10 miles an hour.
It's like 2 or 3.
There's just a little bit of bite in the air. I think it could play a factor
and
tonight.
55% humidity at 7 o'clock. Humidity makes it cooler feeling. I know when it's hot, when you do the feel like temperature,
Right.
when it's wet and it's cold, it actually makes it feel colder.
So we'll have to watch that as well.
So we'll see. But 55% is pretty big for Nebraska.
Well, for this time of
Yeah,
year it is.
definitely. 63% at 8 o'clock. It's going up.
Well, all that said, Nebraska does have a good home night game record. Since 1986, when they played their very first true home night game, they are 53-11. Matt Rule's teams, by the way, are 4-1.
That's funny because I would not, if you'd have asked me that and just going anecdotal by my feeling, I would have thought it was worse. Like, I don't
really.
I would think besides the Colorado game, I don't remember any of the wins.
Probably most of those 11 losses have happened in the last 20 years.
Yeah, that's what I remember mostly. I mean, the Colorado game obviously was different.
Right.
But most of the games I remember, it was losses.
Participating sponsors of 1620 The Pregame are the Sedora Law Group. Your outcome depends on what you do next. And by Blur Parties. See how Blur makes every moment a party at blurevents.com. When we come back, we're going to take a look first when USC has the football and figure out how Nebraska is going to handle what by many metrics is considered the best offense in college football. That and more as we continue live from the Blur Events tailgate here at Memorial Stadium on 1620 The Zone and 1019 The Keg. $16.20 The Zone and 1019 The Keg are live from Lincoln. Now back to 1620 The Pregame.
Well, the band has arrived. Always gets a little louder in here when the band has arrived. And they're playing with a little extra verve
I always
today.
feel bad because I don't ever have cash, and they go around with a little bucket.
With the pitcher?
Yeah, and I don't ever have any. You know, I haven't had cash since I got married.
Right.
So,
Well, that's
they had a
typical
little
for all of
pitcher.
us.
I need to start bringing a couple bucks with me so I can put it in there. And then today, the firefighters came for the
With the
muscle.
boot, yeah.
I didn't have any cash for that either.
1620 The Pregame. Also presented by the Sedora Law Group. Your outcome depends on what you do next. And by Blur Parties. See how Blur makes every moment a party at blurevents.com. Matt Rule earlier this week about his secondary.
So, you know, we've got really good players back there, and they're really bought in. Rex Guthrie, Marquise Buford. I mean, a ton of guys that can play. They'll have to show up. Make no mistake, like, you know, the number 6 is a great receiver. USC has great receiving tight ends. But Lincoln, they are a run-first football team, and everybody better show up and buckle their chin strap and turn this into a physical battle first. So you'll have to play man, you'll have to play zone, you have to play a little bit of everything, and our guys just have to execute. And the biggest thing is we have to tackle them.
As you heard from Matt Rule, USC is run first, but they are down 2 running backs in this game. Now, granted, the guys they will have available tonight still average more than 5 yards a carry.
Not against Notre Dame.
But not against Notre Dame.
Against Notre Dame. Those guys got to play early in the season against some of the non-conference teams. And then you had your starters like Waymon Jordan, who's really good.
Yeah.
And he had that ankle surgery and the tightrope procedure done. So so he won't be ready for another 2 weeks. The other guy they had that started the season out for the whole season. You're down your third and fourth running backs, and you're still producing. That's a system thing, and they do have a very good run system.
When you take a look at the analytics of this matchup, I mean, there's nothing that USC does poorly. I guess the one thing is, and it's not something they can control necessarily on offense, it's field position.
Yep.
Their average starting field position is 119th. Of course, field position has been a distinct Nebraska advantage all season long. But you look at everything else against the run or running the ball, dropping back, quality drive rate, points per quality drive, early down success, late down success. They're top 25 in every single category, which is why when you see some of those graphics, you see the one team that's way out there to the right.
Yeah.
That's good. That's USC's offense.
Yeah, you mentioned net field position. Nebraska's at plus 6.5 right now, which, you know, we've talked about this throughout the years. Because of poor special teams, they haven't had good field position. Now they're above the best. Minus 4.1 for USC. They're negative 4 yards.
That's crazy.
I know it's nuts to think about a net field position for them team, but you know
and
what?
That's a team that doesn't turn the ball over either.
Exactly. So the thing that I figured out watching their games is they don't really, even though they have Mekhi Lemon, who was on our preseason watch list for the Jet Award, they really don't try to return a lot. They don't try to. Like Nebraska right now leads the Big Ten in punt return attempts, right? Because they want to return them. And they're returning more in kickoffs now than Eckler ever did at Tennessee. So they want to return. USC doesn't seem to want to. So that, along with the fact that they've had a few issues with their punt return game. They gave up a kickoff return for a touchdown, so that kind of skews the numbers a little bit. But, yeah, I was surprised to see that they were that low on the net field position.
We'll dive in a little bit more of the special teams a little bit later on, but obviously when we look at USC, it starts with their quarterback, Jaden Mayava, and as we talked about in the first segment, it's basically a full circle because last year playing Nebraska, Mayava got his first start. Matt Rule was asked about the differences in what he saw in Mayava last year in his first start and what he's watching on tape before this start.
Yeah, last year they were coming off a bye, and we had heard some rumblings that he was going to start. Then they said he was going to start, so we weren't sure what to get. And this week they're also coming off a bye. I love the league giving Lincoln Riley 14 days to get ready for us. Thanks, guys. I say that tongue in cheek, obviously, but that's how much respect I have for Lincoln. I think you see the quarterback. He manages the game at a really high level. He can throw the deep ball. He can move. He can run zone read. They will utilize him as a runner down in the red zone. He gets outside the pocket, can see the field. If you go back to last year, he got outside the pocket to the right that first touchdown, and touchdown. The ball got down to the 6, but he threw the ball down there. So he's just another in the long line of great quarterbacks under coach.
So Jaden Mayava, completion percentage is way up. Obviously, his touchdown to interception ratio is great. Thing that kind of impresses me about him, and I think back to the Illinois game, even though it was a loss, when Illinois got people in his face, it did not faze him. He still threw that. He's big. He still threw that ball. He trusts his receivers. Now, he's got two great receivers in Lemon and Lane, guys that he trusts implicitly.
And two really good tight ends.
And two good tight ends as well. We've talked so much this year about how teams stay away from Sierra Wright. Well, last year, Mayava did stay away from Sierra Wright, and he got a pick 6. I don't think they're going to stay necessarily away from Sierra Wright tonight either. Now, we'll see if Wright is ever matched up against either of those guys, but he's not afraid to throw it anywhere, any place on the field.
Yeah, so they will line number 6, Lemon, in the slot. They will a lot. He plays all three positions at wide receiver, but he'll line up in the slot where he'll match up with Sierra Wright. One of the things I find really interesting in Mayava, because I'll admit, when I watched him play at UNLV, I did not think that guy was an NFL player. 59% completion rate back then. He just did not feel like he had a good feel. Didn't run very well. Turned the ball over. A lot of turnover-worthy plays.
I remember talking about that last year.
Then he comes here, goes to USC. And early on, he wasn't great. He had some bad games. But you look at him now, and it shows you what Lincoln Riley can do. He is a completely different quarterback. I still believe this guy could be a first-round pick, even a top 10 pick.
Really?
6'4", 230 pounds, strong arm, can run okay when he wants to. Seems like he's pretty intelligent, so I wouldn't be surprised if he continues to move up the draft board. The one thing you can do against him, from what I've noticed, is it's not up the middle that he has problems. Is that he doesn't have the greatest awareness when people are – he's the guy in the grocery store I always talk about, who you're standing behind and they don't know you're there. Like, you don't feel me here? I'm right behind you. he's that guy. I think there's times where he doesn't really feel what's coming from his left or right. I think that's how you get to him. And because of the sound that's going to come out of this night, I think those offensive tackles are going to get off the ball a little slower than they normally do, and you're going to see the defensive ends have an advantage.
So does that mean that John Butler, when he comes up with his pressure schemes, not just in four-man, but anytime he brings extra pressure, he's going to attempt to do it, not necessarily zone blitzing or anything up the middle, but trying to come off the edge because of that?
I believe so. If you watch him on tape, you'll see the issues he has. And everybody knows that if you're the home team and you've got a loud crowd, those offensive tackles are going to struggle. They just are. I mean, I don't care if it's a silent count, if it's a clap of the hands, if it is simply the guard touching the center on the butt to signal it. The tackles are always out there on an island
because they're late.
They're just watching in. They're looking in, and they just can't get off fast enough. And so you would hope that whoever plays defensive end, whether it's McCullough or it is whoever, Cam Lenhart, whoever it is, that they take advantage of that, especially early. It's always early in the game. Go back and watch Colorado last year, how slowly they got off the ball and how quickly James Williams, that first time, came off the edge like a screaming bandit. And it was because the tackle got off late because of the noise. And so you hope you see a lot of that today.
Going back to the running game real quick, I saw these stats on PFF this week, and I know we've already talked about USC being down a couple of backs.
Yeah.
But going between the tackles, USC averages 7.1 yards per carry, which is sixth best in the country. Meanwhile, Nebraska has allowed 6.5 yards per carry between the tackles, which is the ninth worst in the country. So USC, their strength in running the football matches up with Nebraska's weakness defending the run. How can you mitigate that tonight?
So a lot of that's got to be cutbacks, because if you look at their numbers, they struggle more, Nebraska does, against outside zone, which in general is designed to go outside the tackles. Now, there's a lot of cutbacks that come off of it, so maybe that's the issue. It's more of the cutback things. But I will tell you that they do not. USC doesn't run a ton of outside zone. It's a lot of insights, a lot of duo. It's a lot of saying, okay, we're gonna double team your inside guys, and we're gonna run behind that. That's what I see a lot of. And Nebraska hasn't been horrible. Last week against Northwestern, that's a great example. A team that did the exact same thing.
Yep.
And for outside of 3 or 4 big runs like every week.
Well, the big run was outside.
Outside, right. So that outside zone was, and it wasn't even outside zone play. That was a inside zone play that for whatever reason, Cam Lenhart lost contained and he bounced outside of it. So yeah, I think that USC is going to have a good day running the ball like everybody has. But if you look at them on the road, they're averaging 3.61 yards an attempt on the road, rushing. At home, they're averaging over 7.5. So there's a difference whether they're home and a road. It's a huge difference. That's why I know the sample side's not huge. I get that. And as a guy who believes in a lot of stats, I know it's not great to just lean on them. But they're so dramatically different from home to road. I mean, their numbers, 59 points scoring at home, 28 points scoring on the road. I mean, 19 giving up, 28 giving up on the road. A guy is averaging 11.9 completion or attempt all the way down to 8.1 when he's on the road. That's just huge differences. It's just so strange to see.
Looking at the 3 road games, obviously the one that they won at Purdue, they had their best day. It was 4.5 yards a carry.
They fought in that game, boy.
Illinois was just 3.7, and Notre Dame was an abysmal 2.3. Could the argument be made, because they were playing from behind all afternoon in Champaign and most of the night in South Bend, that's a part of it?
Sure.
Though it was still only 4.5 yards per carry at Purdue.
Even if you look back in 2024, same thing happened. Same thing happened on the road, how their runs, the attempts dropped and their yards per attempt dropped. Now, I didn't look to see if they were trailing in those games on the road, but the exact same thing happened last year to them when they were on the road.
Anyone else that you're looking at as far as the matchup, Nebraska's defense going up against SC's offense? You mentioned the tight ends and how good they've been, too.
Well, the number 1 yards per attempt receiver in the Big Ten is their tight end. He's almost at 20 yards of reception, which is crazy to think. Matter of fact, they have 2 of the top 4 in terms of yards attempt reception. They have that.
You're talking about Lake McCree.
Yeah, Lake McCree and Lane are, I think, 1 and 4 or 1 and 3.
Yeah, Lane is 17.8 yards per catch, and McCree is 19.2.
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy to think about. So when we start talking about the tight ends, then we start talking about how those linebackers are going to play against the tight ends. And I was talking about this earlier in the week. I like the fact you want to have veterans, of course. You want to have what's that? You want to have veterans. Talk about guys coming off the edge. They could use him. So you talk about guys who are experienced and understand. I get that.
Yeah.
But you also need true run, go get them guys. And the best, I think, out of all the run, go get them guys right now is Dawson Merritt, because he is very athletic. He is explosive. He's really smart, too. Have you noticed the way he'll make adjustments when he'll move a tackle over, or he'll adjust the linebacker next to him when he's in the game? So he knows what he's doing. I'd like to see him play more, because when you're running those crossing routes and those tight ends are getting up on Watson Trent, it doesn't make me feel comfortable at all. And as good as Vincent Shavers is going forward and back, I don't necessarily like him going left and right. So I would try to get somebody in there that I knew could run with those guys, because you're going to have to run with them today.
If you're following along with us, if you're watching in on our YouTube channel, the bottom category there is third and fourth down success.
Oh, yeah.
According to the chart on the graphic here, they're fourth in the country. When you just look at their third down conversion rate, Sam McEwen had this earlier this week, it's 53%.
Yep.
Now, Purdue, road game, held the Trojans to 4 of 13.
Yep.
But even in the loss at Illinois, it was 57%.
Yeah.
In the loss against Notre Dame, it was 43%. And the difference has been, going back to the run, Michael, USC's third down run game has averaged over 8.5 yards a carry.
Yeah.
If Nebraska's consistent tonight in being a good home defense against the road USC offense, that could take away one of the edges that they have leaned on this year, converting third down.
One of my favorite things they run, and this take you all the way back to the Chicago Bears in that 2005-2006 season when they beat the Saints in the conference championship game.
Yeah.
It's that delay. They run the delay so well. Because Maeva's a great ball handler, football handler, great football handler, and he loves to hold the ball until he doesn't need to hold it anymore and give the ball to the running back or take off himself. He's really good on that delay. And so what you have to concentrate as a middle linebacker is, yes, I got to get my drop, but I got to worry about him running the delay draw or the draw. And so that's one of the things they do a lot on third down. They're not, you know why they're not scared to run on 3rd and 8? Because they'll go for it on 4th down. They'll run on 3rd and 8.
They'll
get
set up a
6,
4th and short.
they'll go 4th and 2. That's why they're not afraid to run on 3rd down.
As you've said, Maeva's not a guy, I mean, he can run, but he's not a guy who's thinking run first. But given Nebraska's lack of success against mobile quarterbacks, do you think, and especially if USC maybe isn't running it like they do, that Maeva might be instructed, hey, don't be afraid to pull and try to run?
Well, on the zone, so I made a bet in this game.
Oh, no.
And one of the bets I made was 2 rush touchdowns for Maeva.
Okay.
Because of how well, now he had one last year against Nebraska, how well he runs that zone read on the keeper. They'll pound you, and then he keeps it, and it almost seems like it's too easy the way he gets around it, because he doesn't like he's running fast.
Yeah.
He's kind of a long-legged guy who a couple steps and all of a sudden he's in the end zone. And I wouldn't be surprised if they get in the red zone, they use that zone read to score. So that's why I bet that. So, yeah, I'm concerned about it, but they do not, at least this season, they have not chosen to run a lot. When he has had, I looked this up, it was 3.5 yards a carry. So it's not a ton. But many times it's on 3rd and short or 2nd and short.
Okay.
So he's getting first downs, even though he's not getting big carries. And 4 touchdowns.
A little bit later on, we'll look at Nebraska when they have the ball. We're also going to talk about the special teams in this game, because that may be the path to an upset tonight. Nebraska leaning on that Mike Eckler special teams unit. We are live here at the Blur Events tailgate. Only one more of these
Crazy.
The rest of the year, and it's Black Friday against Iowa. I guarantee you they will not be wearing black uniforms or have the end zones painted black for that game.
And we'll
because,
have
as
a
we
heater,
know,
too.
and we will probably have to have
We'll
the heater that time.
Yeah.
We don't have it today, but we will probably have to have it on Black Friday.
Yeah.
When we come back, it's been a busy day in the top 25. There have been upsets.
Yeah.
There are upsets happening right now, which maybe is foreshadowing what could happen here tonight as Nebraska goes for the upset against Southern California. This show is presented by Chandler Conway, Nebraska personal injury lawyers you can trust, and Blur Parties. Learn more about all their events and future tailgates at blurevents.com. John Bishop, Michael Severe, back to Lincoln right after this on 1620 The Zone and 101.9 The Keg.
1620 The Zone and 1019 The Keg are live from Lincoln. Now back to 1620 The Pregame.
1620 The Pregame presented by Sadoro Law Group. Your outcome depends on what you do next, and by Blur Party. See how Blur makes every moment a party at blurevents.com. So,
Yeah.
scanning the dials, the full dials, by the way. They don't have YouTube TV here. Texas Tech has been in a tussle all afternoon with Kansas State. K-State got the early lead. Texas Tech's up 19-14.
Just had a touchdown run by the quarterback. It was beautiful.
In the third, a battle of two teams that Nebraska has played this year. Minnesota's up 10-7 on Michigan State.
Go Spartans.
Indiana has just taken a 17-point lead early third quarter against Maryland. It is 10-10 in the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. I believe that game is just getting ready to start the third quarter, and Virginia's up on Cal 17-7. Those are the games we can see here.
Yeah.
But Notre Dame
Yeah, it's
is
crazy.
struggling this afternoon. They're only up 12-7 late third quarter against 1-7 Boston College. And remember, Notre Dame cannot lose
They cannot
anymore.
lose.
They are stuck right now at 2 losses. If they lose a third, their at-large hopes are done.
Dude, USC should feel so sad if they look at these halftime numbers.
Oh.
So Notre Dame rushing 14 attempts for 49 yards. 49 yards. By this time, they had 189 versus USC. They got 49 total yards. And Jeremiah Love, longest run is 6. He had 2 that were over 40 against USC. That's crazy. Now, CJ Carr's having a great day. 13 of 18 for 237 and 2 touchdowns, but those are their only scores. And obviously they missed the extra point, and they must have gone for 2, I guess.
Earlier today, Ohio State was in a ball game, at least in the first
For a
half.
while, yeah.
Then they blew it out. They got a big touchdown right away in the start of the third quarter. They ended up being
Did you
Penn
see that
State
catch?
today.
Did
Yes.
you see that catch?
Amazing.
Oh, my God.
Amazing.
That dude, Jeremiah Smith is
Jeremiah Smith is a
ridiculous.
freak of nature.
He's ridiculous.
38-14, Ohio State gets the win. Julian saying 20 of 23
Yeah, he's in the Heisman
for
conversation.
316.
He's in the Heisman conversation.
Texas was dog walking Vanderbilt all night
Yes.
until Vandy scored the last 21 points. They couldn't recover the onside, so Vandy falls at Texas 34-31. Depending on where you got the number, you're either happy or you're sad.
Yes.
Miami, coming off the idle week,
Yep.
after they had lost to Louisville, loses at SMU 26-20. The Hurricanes' at-large hopes have taken a big hit. That's their second loss of the year.
What year were you born again?
71.
That's the last time SMU won a home game versus a top 10 team. Before
A
today.
home game?
A home game versus the top 10 team.
Even back in the early 80s?
I
maybe?
know. That's what I thought. I was like, weren't they really good at with the James?
The ponies.
Apparently
Really?
not. Apparently, that's what it said. That's what ESPN said.
Well, I don't get ESPN anymore.
Well,
I get
it's
YouTube.
on the radio.
Oh, on the radio.
Yeah, on the radio.
And Houston, they just got into the top 25. They lose today at home to West Virginia.
I love that one.
45-35.
That was a letdown spot.
Yeah.
I mean, Houston played their butts off. They got that win. I'm not surprised. West Virginia backs up against the wall. They're trying to make a bowl game. And then Houston coming off a big win. That was a real letdown spot.
The only other final today in the Big Ten, by the way, Indiana has scored
Pick six.
again, a
Yeah.
pick 6, 34-10, PAT pending in the third. Actually, no. Did they miss the PAT?
I don't know.
Oh, no, they had 27.
Yep, so that's
so
what- yeah, they
now
made
it's
it, yeah.
34.
Yeah.
Okay, they're fine. 34-10, Indiana. Illinois blows out Rutgers today, 35-13. Of course, Illinois last week losing to Washington, so their at-large hopes
Rutgers
went up in smoke.
could not convert in the red. You tell me if you heard this before.
Yeah.
They could not convert in the red zone. Several times they had great drives, and they just didn't get any points out of it. Or if they did, they got field goals out of it. And you can't compete with Illinois like that because Illinois was scoring touchdowns.
Tonight, you got Ole Miss hosting South Carolina.
Yep.
Ole Miss, great position right now because if they win, their schedule sets up very nicely. So Ole Miss, I mean, Ole Miss is going to have to stumble
Yes.
in order to miss the playoff. And of course, they're still thinking, hey, we're going to play in Atlanta
Right.
in a few weeks. You got Oklahoma and Tennessee. To a lot of people, this is a playoff eliminator.
It is.
I know that Kay Ford believes that Oklahoma would still be in the conversation with a third loss because
Schedule's so damn hard.
their schedule is very difficult. But John Mateer, since coming back from injury,
I know.
has the worst PFF grade of any Power 4 quarterback in America.
He's really struggling. It's obvious he can't grip the ball very well.
Yeah.
But I will say this about that game, and I know a lot of people are on Tennessee. Nobody's picking Oklahoma. I get it. Tennessee and their 3 SEC wins so far, the teams they played are 0-13.
Oy.
And Oklahoma has the number 1 sack rate and havoc in the, I think it's in the SEC, maybe the country, and they will get after you. And so far, Tennessee has not faced anybody that really gets after you. Everybody's like ranked in the 50s and the 60s, and so they are going to go against something they haven't seen before.
And tonight, late night, after this game is done, well, it'll actually probably kick off. There might be a little time left in the Nebraska game. It depends. Well, it's a 9:15. Yeah, Nebraska will still be playing.
Yep.
But Cincinnati, of course, the team, that's Nebraska's best win right now so far. At number 24, Utah. We were talking about this game off the air. This line is 10.5 in favor of Utah, even though Cincinnati's a higher-ranked team. Cincinnati has got, what looks to be a better resume right now.
Right.
You can't figure out why this line is like this.
Why? I'd say this is my line all the time. There's a reason why it's that way. I feel there's Georgia in a big play, but I feel there's a reason for this, and I think it's obviously Dampier healthy again. It's big. He's like 70% of their offense. But on the other side, one of the most explosive backs in prior for Cincinnati is out. They're also missing some people on the offensive line, so I think they're looking at that. But I also believe Utah at night. John, I've been to some really loud places in my life. I've been to Baton Rouge dozens of times. I've been to the Superdome. The loudest I've ever been in was BYU Utah at Rice Eccles. It was the last game, the last one in the Holy War for Edwards, and it was so loud in there that BYU got called for like 6 false starts. You can't hear in there. I think that's one of the reasons they factor in that 10.5, 9.5 too. The home field advantage is so much. It's like 5 points there.
One of the things I saw about this matchup that might be the most interesting is Utah plays some of the highest rate of man coverage in the country.
They do. A ton. The most.
And Sorsby, as we know, will run.
Yes.
So does Utah have to be mindful of that and switch things up a little bit more because because Sorsby's going to take off and run if he gets a chance. We saw that Kansas City.
You got to spy him for sure. Look, Willingham's going to be ready. We were joking about this the other day. He beat his 12th year as the head coach of Nebraska right now. If they hired him when they're supposed to, it'd be awesome. He'd be great. But I'll show you the difference in habit. You know how good Miami has been in general this year, right? So Carson Beck, SMU was top 10 in havoc. Carson Beck wasn't really good on the road against the spread in ACC play. Overall, Miami's not good at home. Against the spread in ACC play. When you look at that, what SMU did today to them, getting after them, it shows you what happens when you're going against a top 10 havoc team, what it can do to even a quarterback. He was rolling. He was playing well.
He was.
And they got after him today. I think the same thing happens a couple times. I think it's going to happen to Tennessee's quarterback against Oklahoma, and I think it's going to happen for Utah tonight as well.
I know it's a lighter slate of games after dark. Do you have anything exciting on your chart?
I always have. I
know, but I didn't know.
Throughout the day.
I'm assuming you have some cheddar on Game 7 tonight.
I don't even know who's playing in Game 7.
Yes, you do. You were told yesterday on the air it's Toronto and Los Angeles.
Right. Toronto and Los Angeles. Right. Congratulations to them. I have no concern about that whatsoever. Most of the games I do, I'm looking New Mexico, UNLV, that's already Maryland, Arkansas, Mississippi State, that's going on right now. I think Arkansas is trailing. Wyoming, San Diego State, that's late, right? Isn't that late?
Which one?
San Diego State and Wyoming.
I believe you're right.
I had that under 42.5 in San Diego State, minus 5.5. Florida State, minus 10.5. I know that sounds crazy the way Florida State's played, but they're finally healthy. Tonight. They're finally healthy. I like them at that minus 10.5, if it's still 10.5. And then I already did the Virginia Cal one already. And, Colorado tonight, I think they bounce back because of the fact that he talked about his mama whipping him. And whenever Coach Prime talks about his mama whipping him, the team's going to be ready to go. That's my theory on that one.
Okay.
I think Colorado bounces back tonight.
All right. When we come back, something else that's near and dear to Michael's heart because he's wearing the Jet Award jacket.
Special teams.
Special teams. We're back to the Blur Events tailgate here on 1620 The Pregame. 1620 The Pregame is presented by Chandler Conway, Nebraska personal injury lawyers you can trust, and Blur Parties. Learn more about all their events and future tailgates at blurevents.com. We return on 1620 The Pregame, on 1620 The Zone, and 1019 The Keg.
$16.20 The Zone and 1019 The Keg are live from Lincoln. Now back to $16.20 The Pregame.
Well, tonight, Nebraska fans are hoping that they see a little Tasmanian devil action on the sidelines after a special teams play. Well, everybody except the head coach.
I love not just the special teams, not just the production, but I love the way that Mike has done a great job of getting everyone, like, those guys know they're going to affect the game. They're not just playing special teams. And so as a result, they're developing and they're getting more ready to go play on defense and offense. And I think that's the way good teams work. I got a bunch of people sent me the clip. There was a clip, I guess, on social media of him like walking up to me and me being like this. And people were like, "Are you and him okay?" I'm like, he's punched me. He punched me in one game. He tackled me in another game. I said, "Don't touch me again." So I love that. But he arm's length, so that there's no problem there for anybody that's worried. He's my boy, but stay over here.
little known that Matt Satilli was banned from the stadium today because he posted that video. Actually, Matt Satilli's fine. He's in there. I saw him go in. He was wearing white, though.
But in all seriousness, I mean, nobody, save for Bo Pelini in 2003, has come in here as a new assistant or coordinator and has had more of a profound effect on a side of the ball. Of course, Pelini in 03 completely turned that defense
led the country
on his head.
Yeah.
Mike Eckler, what he is, I honestly thought, Michael, that Eckler was going to take Nebraska's special teams from the depths to something that resembles respectability. I didn't think it would go from the depths to something that is a decided strength. And we are now deep enough into the season where I can confidently say, and I can look at the numbers and I can say, this is a strength. This is the special teams I remember for 40 years or 30 years of my youth where every time the punt returner touched the ball, you thought something special was going to happen. The difference is the kickoff returns. Nebraska would break a kickoff return every now and then.
I think Johnny had 2, 3.
but that's going way back. That's going way back when I was a baby.
Right.
This is, I mean, now when Kenneth Williams touches the ball,
Yeah.
I'm thinking this could be a house call.
Yeah.
And we haven't even talked about the kick coverage units. They're not allowing anybody to return punts.
Nope.
This has been an amazing turnaround so far this season. And I think tonight, if there's an opportunity, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, I call them momentum plays. If there's a chance for that, the odds are it's going to come from the Eckler special teams.
Yeah, I really believe there'll be a big defensive play, probably like a sack fumble. I just feel like that backside, him not knowing they're there. But people would ask me before the season started, and you guys did too, could Eckler be that big of a difference? And I always say the same thing. When Bo Pelini decided in 2014 to take over the special teams, it didn't take 2 years. Well, he was only there a year. It didn't take 2 years. It took 1 year to go from 120th to 1. When in 2006-17, when Diaco took over the punt, it didn't take a long time. But at the end of that season, they were all of a sudden a top 10 punting team. If you concentrate on it and you bring the right guy in, you can turn it around automatically. And we've seen it many times with head coaches. When they decide, I'm now concentrating on this. Nick Saban did the same thing. Nick Saban said, I am concentrating on special teams. I'm going to be in every meeting. And Alabama went from, missing all those field goals and stuff to turning it around. Same thing happened here. So you mentioned that. So Nebraska, over the last, from 2021 to 2024, 46 returns for 225 total yards.
That's in 4 seasons total.
4
seasons total.
Currently, Nebraska, 20 punt returns for 280 yards.
They've outdone the last 4 seasons in 8 games.
And that includes Carter catching the block punt and taking it in, whatever long that was.
And that doesn't count the one that was called back against Michigan State, right?
And then you referenced it. They've only allowed 3 returns for 1 yard in punt returns.
It's insane.
It's insane. And they're the number 2 or number 1 ranked special teams, either if you're talking about just overall efficiency or points per special teams. They're either 1 and 2 in the country.
If Nebraska doesn't get any turnovers tonight, how many special teams plays will they need to pull the upset?
I think 2 that flip the field. First of all, they need to steal a possession. So you can either steal a possession by an interception or forced fumble, or you can steal a possession by an onside kick. I believe, and we talked about this, I think it was Houston Christian Week, there's a fake punt that's in that. They have a fake punt. It's lined up. It's ready to go. I wouldn't be surprised if I see something like that so they can steal a possession to get ahead. Famously, when you're going against a great offense like this and they get rolling, you got to do something to kind of stop that. And one way to stop that is to do something with the trick play. And I wouldn't be surprised if Nebraska does that because I think they have to steal a possession. Or 2.
Is it a trick play or a gimmick?
I think it would be a fake. I'm going to call it a fake punt. What I think.
A fake punt.
And I don't know.
Now, they did run a fake punt against Michigan, right? The snap to
Harburg.
Heinrich, and it got stuck.
To Harburg. I would like to see them just let the punter run because he
can go both ways.
And I know, I don't know about that. I've never met him. But in terms of him going.
He can kick both sides.
He can kick with both legs. So I could see that happening. And then, 2 years ago, they ran, 2 or 3 fake field goals?
Yes.
Right? They ran, 1 in the bowl game? At least 1 in the bowl game.
Yeah.
And I think they ran 2 other ones.
They might have.
And so I wouldn't be surprised if I saw that either. I just think that they know that they got to steal some possessions. Onside kick's a possibility. Mm-hmm. If they saw something on tape, Eckler's very good at this. If he saw something on tape, maybe do an onside kick. But something needs to happen to steal a couple possessions.
That's the end of hour 1. Participating sponsors of 1620 The Pregame are the Sedora Law Group. Your outcome depends on what you do next. And by Blur Party, see how Blur makes every moment a party at blurevents.com. All I see right now is black. All of it. Oh, okay. Guy's got red and white striped overalls, but he's wearing black underneath.
Have you ever said that in Nebraska?
No, I haven't.
I guess you could be in North Omaha or something.
I've never said that. Okay, there's one dude at this table right here who's wearing red.
Yeah, what is the guy wearing red for? What's his problem? He's also got like a blue hat on. Own a Nebraska hat? He doesn't own something black? What's this guy's problem?
I don't know. Maybe I don't know.
What is that? His issue? Look at it. It's a flat bill, too. God, I hate a flat bill hat. Do I hate a flat bill hat?
You got to bend that sucker.
Bend that thing, man.
It's
to block the sun. You wear it to block the sun.
Well, you are underneath the overpass, so you're probably good.
See that little angle she's got on her hat?
Yeah, it's perfect.
That's what you need to do right there.
It's perfect.
And she's got on black.
When we come back, Husker History Mystery, we'll look back 28 years ago to a monumental event that happened in Memorial Stadium, and we will discuss the question, Was this the right time and at the right price to extend Matt Rule?
Good question.
We will be back and have more of 1620 the pregame. Indiana, by the way, now up 41-10
They're the
late in the
scariest
third.
offense/defense scoring I see every week. They're the scariest.
Isn't that 3 touchdowns in this quarter?
Yes.
And there's 4 minutes left in the quarter.
And 2 of them, I think at least one's defensive.
One
maybe
is
2.
defensive.
Maybe 2.
That is a scary team. Georgia's up 17-10. Michigan State has tied Minnesota. They are reviewing, it looks like, a touchdown.
Yeah, he's short, but it's the 1 yard line. So
by Texas Tech.
They'll probably score again.
Yeah, and that would put them up 2 scores.
Yep.
Correct? So that's your update of college football. When we come back, hour number 2 of 1620 the pregame here on 1620 the Zone and 1019 the K.
This is 1620 the pregame.
All the way in, touchdown!
1620 the pregame is presented by Chandler Conway, personal injury attorneys you can trust. Now from the Blur Parties tailgate at Memorial Stadium, here's John Bishop and Michael Sevilla.
I wondered earlier this week what the atmosphere might be like, because it didn't really feel like it was going to be one of those types of games. But as we get closer to kickoff and we watch the flow of traffic and, just kind of, granted, we have a small sample size here. We got a few hundred folks here at the Blur Events tailgate. There does seem to be a little bit more verve, a little more pep going on right now. And so with the blackout conditions tonight in Memorial Stadium with a ranked opponent coming in, I'm not saying it's going to be like last year against Colorado.
Yeah.
But it's probably going to be pretty spicy. And if Nebraska gets off to a good start or if Nebraska's leading into the second half,
light show.
That spice level is going to get up there into the ghost pepper category. By the way, they are also selling black balloons. Unfortunately, someone just lost theirs. I saw them floating away. So, yeah, the field has been painted with black. The fans mostly are dressed in black.
You want a great example of how childish I am?
Yes.
Every time he says he's all the way in, I giggle. Well, it's like literally every time he says it, I giggle a little bit.
You might hear it
makes
again
me
here
laugh.
in just a moment because it's time for our Husker History Mystery. By the way, welcome back, Hour 2, 1620,
Nice.
the pregame here on the Zone and 101.9 The Keg. He's Michael Severe. I'm John Bishop. Produced by Nick Grimm.
She's got a can of whipped cream in her pocket. She does.
Someone's going to have some fun tonight.
I know. That's crazy.
It was 28 years ago to the day.
Holy
In
moly.
fact, it's almost to the hour that the stadium was in a very celebratory mood. A rout over an old rival, a milestone for its head coach. November 1st, 1997, number 1 ranked Nebraska was facing unranked Oklahoma. Tom Osborne was sitting on 249 wins, and it was a small-town kid from Nebraska who decided he wanted the spotlight.
2 tight ends in the game. Scott Frost under center. Hands the ball straight ahead to McAvick. He's in, standing up for the score. 2nd down and a yard to go for the Huskers. They stack the backfield in the eye. Newcomb wide to the left, another wide out to the right side. Let's see what Scott Frost does. Hands it straight ahead to McAvick at 30, 25, 20, 10, 5. He's going to score! 2nd down, 3 yards to go for the Big Red. Here is a handoff to McAvick at 25, 20. There he goes! He's gone for the score!
Joel Makovicka, 3 touchdowns on the afternoon, 101 yards rushing, his second career 100-yard game.
Against Washington was the first one, right?
Yes, very good. Nebraska 69.
It's a good number, by the way.
Oklahoma 7, the biggest blowout in the history of that series, and it was the last time that Tom Osborne faced the Sooners. It was also career win number 250 for the legendary Hall of Fame head coach 28 years ago, almost to the hour today.
That's crazy. So the biggest one before that, I'm guessing, was like the end of the season in 69? Because didn't they shut out Nebraska at the end of the year in either 68 or 69?
In 68, they got blown out 47-0, and then the next year, Nebraska won like 44-14 or something like that. It was the biggest win in series history. I think some of the Bud Wilkinson teams of the 50s had a couple of 50 burgers against Nebraska, but this was the biggest, 69-7 against OU. Little did we know that 3 years later, Oklahoma would be the national champion when they hired a guy named Bob Stoops.
Well, the way they turned around from 1999 to 2000 is it's as close to Indiana's turnaround. Obviously, Indiana didn't win a national championship, but Indiana did go from being the losingest team in the history of NCAA football to being a team that made the college football playoff. What he did from 99 to 2000 and just moving guys around. He took guys who were playing running back and made them linebackers, and linebackers made them running backs, and still incredible to think about. And had a guy with like multiple ACL surgeries that was playing quarterback for him too.
Well, we look at Kurt Cignetti today. Bob Stoops reset the coaching market back then because he basically showed that it was possible if you were the right program, you could get back to national championship status in only 2 years.
Quickly.
Of course, Cignetti has reset the coaching market in a bit different way. Who knows? Maybe he wins a national championship in year 2, but it won't be at a blue blood unless you're calling it college basketball.
They're throwing the ball right now. They're up 41-10.
Of course they are.
Plays have been throws.
Of course they are.
Quarter. They are not going to stop. They're going to blow you the hell out.
Could someone tell Siggs you don't need style points anymore?
I don't believe that. I believe in style points.
I believe it. You must have had Indiana plus the number.
I believe in style points. Well, the whole change of going with strength of record or record strength.
Yeah.
I know it doesn't mean a ton when it talks about how you beat somebody, but I think I'd be checking it out. Like some comparison scores, Well, how did you play against this team? How did you play against this team? Oh, you put 90 on this team? Okay.
Participating sponsors of 1620 The Pregame are the Sedora Law Group. Your outcome depends on what you do next. And by Blur Party, see how Blur makes every moment a party at blurevents.com. Here was Matt Rule on Thursday announcing the contract extension.
The great thing about this for me is, when you're a head coach and they bring in another athletic director, he didn't hire you. And so for Troy to come to me with this, I think he started talking to me like at week 3 and really maybe, just say, hey, let's talk about this. Let you know that you're his coach, and the same way with Dr. Gold. lots of people, they're there for those good moments. After we lost to Minnesota, Dr. Gold, as I'm walking on the field, runs up to me, shakes my hand, and says, and came in the locker room. I mean, you don't find that very many places. And so for me, I know everyone wants to win, but usually people have different ideas of how to do it. And everyone wants to win until it gets really hard. And then people have a tendency to back away. And what we have here is we have people that are willing to do the hard things.
I thought it was interesting in the Matt Rule contract. Here's how much he implicitly trusts his new boss, because remember, it wasn't Troy Dannon who hired him,
right,
and his new president or chancellor, Dr. Gold. There is a provision in the new contract where if Dannon leaves,
right,
the buyout, his personal buyout, the one he would have to pay or his next school would pay if he left, gets cut in half. If they're both gone,
right,
it goes to zero. So part of that's a protection
sure,
for what happened to him the first time around, but it also says something about how much those three seem to be in concert with what the other wants to do with the future of the program.
I listen to Nick Saban a lot. I just watching him break down film, but when he talks about the vertical integration of the leadership structure at your school or your team in the NFL or wherever else, you can tell it means a lot, and we thought it happened here when Scott Frost was hired, and we thought with Bill Moose and whatever else. And then we kind of thought that was the same way when Rule got hired, and then the AD left, or the president left first, and then the chancellor. I mean, everybody left. So I understand making that. I'd put that in my provision as well if I lost my boss, because whoever boss comes in, they always want to bring their own people in. But, man, right now they do seem vertically to be on the same page, it seems.
We thought that was going to be there when Bo Pelini was first hired by Tom Osborne.
Tom Osborne, yeah.
And, of course, we found out that the problem wasn't between Tom and Bo. The problem was between Harvey and Bo. And that came later.
Right.
But,
Milliken didn't care.
So it can change,
right,
but it doesn't appear as if it's going to change here, at least between those three.
Yeah.
This was an interesting quote from Thursday's press conference. Here is Troy Dannon, because a lot of folks in the media space, and maybe some fans as well, say, why in the world are you paying a guy who's just barely above 500 this kind of money? Listen to this response from the athletic director this week.
Take care of somebody, compensate them for what you believe they're worth before you have to. So that's why you're proactive. Number two, when you have what you think is a great coach, you have two obligations. Number one is to compensate them at what is the market for your expectations for where the program should be. And then number two, put them in a position to succeed. The money's there any place, but not every place can you be in a position to succeed. His desire is the same as my desire. Let's compete for and ultimately win a national championship again. How do we make sure this place can be that, while making sure he's compensated at the market of what the expectations for our competitive success should be?
Isn't it weird how Nebraska, and this happens, maybe it happens everywhere, but it always seems like there's so much symmetry from the past to the future. So the last time USC came here, 2007.
Yep.
First game of the season, Nevada, blew them out. Marlon Lucky was on the list of Heisman contenders.
Yeah.
Beat Wake Forest in a close game. A lot of people were calling for Bill Callahan, including Steve Sipple, to get a contract extension. They give him the contract extension.
Yep.
They didn't get blown out because they scored late. I think it was 49-31, somewhere in there.
But it was not a competitive game.
It was never a competitive game.
In the second half, yeah.
And then by 3 weeks later, it was over. That fast. And so the fact that it's them coming here again after a contract extension, it's just so weird how it works sometimes here in Nebraska.
So was it the right price? Is this the right time?
Right price. That's funny, right? Because the price didn't really change as much.
The price didn't change, and that was going to be my point.
Yes.
Because right now, as of today, the only thing that changed was you added 2 more years, which by proxy adds a few more $1 million to the buyout. Now, you're not going to pay a $70+ million buyout after this year because Matt Rule's not going anywhere after this year.
Right.
So the buyout reduces, of course, as the contract burns off years. The only thing that has changed besides the 2 years is the provision that if Nebraska makes a college football playoff,
Yep.
then $1 million gets added to the base salary. The
Each
base
year.
salary has not changed.
Right.
If Nebraska does not make a playoff in the next 7 years, the base salary is going to be what the base salary was going to be under the old contract. So I would say this. I understand the idea of how is college football going to get out from underneath all these ridiculous buyouts if they keep offering these contracts. I understand that. But college football is not run like a normal business. College football is run like a poker game. And a few weeks ago, Penn State pushed a lot of chips to the middle of the table.
Yeah.
Nebraska had to look at their cards, a.k.a. Matt Rule, and say, I think Penn State might want some of these cards. And they have moved chips into the table.
They called them.
They called them on their bet. So you got to – I know you want to look at it from a business standpoint, and I know that it can be untenable, but that's not the way the sport is run. And if you don't play the game, Michael, you will get left behind. If you try to run it the way normal businesses are run, you are going to get left behind because everybody else is doing it the poker way.
Right. So my wife asked me this when it eventually came out. I mean, we obviously the day before because it was reported that he was going to get the contract extension
on Wednesday.
And she asked me about it.
Yeah.
And I said, the funny part about this is if you gave me a blind resume, I don't cover Nebraska football. I'm coming from the moon to Mars. I don't know. And you said, here's the resume. Tell me if this guy deserves an extension or any kind of addition to his contract. Honestly, the blind resume would say no.
No.
That's why national people came out and made fun of it. But if you're here every day and you saw how bad the team was from 2018 to 2022, if you saw what it looked like, even in 2023, how they were still trying to get over the emotional distress that they had from the years prior. And then you see how they are now in this year, even though the blind resume would say no, because of the every day of covering this, I say, yes, it makes sense. If I got to keep him, and you did have to keep him because you're going in the right direction, then I understand it. But if the national people all went, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What has he done to earn this? And Michigan State earned this. And I'm like, he earned it. He earned it by not doing something that is stupid and just doing the right thing to build to where they are. I believe 9-3 in this season, right? If I didn't believe in Matt Rule and him to do things right, I wouldn't have picked 9-3. So obviously he's heading in the right direction. So I would say, yes, it's a good thing, but I understand the national people.
I get the only argument I would make against it is there is the potential that Nebraska was essentially bidding against itself because the only job I think Matt Rule would have left for was Penn State. And there's no guarantee that Penn State was necessarily going to come after him, especially given what has happened here recently. Also, the timing. I mean, listen, the narrative has written itself.
Sure.
If Nebraska wins tonight, the contract extension is going to be lauded even more than it was.
God, yes.
If Nebraska loses tonight, those who have been kind of laying in the weeds or maybe have been a little vocal about why you're doing this now are going to be a lot louder about this. But as, again, you heard from Troy Dannon, we're compensating based on what our expectation is. Their expectation is to win a national championship, so they're going to compensate, and they believe they have their guy, a.k.a. they have pushed their chips to the center of the table on Matt Rule.
So if you take the poker thing I love, but go to the stock market, you're not buying something that's at the top of the market. You're buying it usually when it's got a dip, and you buy it during the dip because you want to make money on it. Right now, they're not dipped. Well, they were dipped 2 weeks ago because of Minnesota, but they're kind of flat right now where they are. Are they going to win this game or lose this game? It's a big part of the season. I think he's buying it saying that year 4, year 5, year 6, that's when you're going to see Nebraska doing what he said, challenging for a national championship. Or at least getting the college ball playoff.
Participating sponsors of 1620 The Pregame are the Sedora Law Group. Your outcome depends on what you do next. And by Blur Party, see how Blur makes every moment a party at blurevents.com. When we come back, we get back to the game itself when Nebraska has the football. We'll talk about that. We will also look a little bit deeper into Matt Rule's personal 18-game losing streak against the top 25. And we've got our keys, our picks to click. I hope I do better than I did last week. It was bad. And we'll get you ready for kickoff. 6:30 tonight on NBC on 1620 The Zone and 101.9 The Keg.
1620 The Zone and 1019 The Keg are live from Lincoln. Now back to 1620 The Pregame.
We keep a GPS on everyone, Mitch. We have rep counts on everyone, and this guy can do this, and this guy can do that based on injury. And contrary to what you might hear out there, we don't over practice. There were sometimes some things are not really what people say they are. We as the guys have gotten stronger and bigger, they're right at the right amount. And so, Emmett's the only guy I think he's the only power 4 player in the country that would have 1,000 yards from scrimmage right now.
Yep.
Second in the Big Ten in rushing. And, the more opportunities he gets, he seems to get stronger and stronger and stronger. So, we went out there Sunday night and practiced. We didn't walk through, we practiced. So our guys are mentally tough. They'll have to be for the team that's coming in. I can promise you that, because this is a really good football team.
The question that was asked of Matt Rule essentially was, is Emmett on any kind of a pitch count? And while he didn't direct
a practice pitch
practice
count by
yeah.
SIP, yeah.
He didn't answer it completely, but he did say, hey, we watch these guys. Everyone's got the GPS tracker, the training staff. They can monitor their vitals and all this different stuff and how much energy they're expending. So my guess is Emmett is getting a lot of token reps in practice.
Right.
They're not working him necessarily as hard as maybe some of the other guys because they are trying to save him.
Right.
But we saw last week good things happen when Emmett gets the ball. Nebraska this year is 3-0.
Yep.
When Emmett gets 20 carries or more, they are just 1-2 when Emmett does not reach the 20 carry mark.
So he set his own mark, right,
Yeah.
for the most carries in his career last week. Does he break that this week?
No, but it'll be close.
Top it.
No, I say he's probably about 25.
Okay.
He might come up
So
one or
couple
two
away.
short.
Right, yeah.
I don't know, and a lot of this too is, remember Nebraska, who last week, and I get it, USC is completely different from every other team that they have faced in the last 3 weeks.
Right.
But Nebraska has averaged less than 60 plays a game the last 4 games.
And they're 58 for the season,
Yes.
I believe, per game. Yeah.
So, I mean, just the math
Yeah.
sometimes just doesn't work out because you're not running enough plays.
Sure.
But I still think that Emmett's
Right.
going to be in that 25 zone, and I
Yeah.
think that's where he needs to be the rest of the season.
I want to get back to that, but I want to ask you because Michigan State just took the lead over Minnesota.
Did they
And
kick
I-
a
and I-
field goal?
No, touchdown.
Oh, touchdown.
I got a text from somebody that said, officially now, Minnesota is 1992 Iowa State. Now, I was in Fort Eustis, Virginia in 92. I wasn't watching Nebraska closely. Do you agree with that?
I mean, the similarities are there, but
Iowa State obviously didn't own Nebraska.
right.
They beat them, 82, 92?
I'm going to say no, only because
You think Minnesota's better?
I think Minnesota is better. Also, the
Look at
Nebraska program in 1992 was better
Right.
than this program.
So the loss was worse.
The loss. Well, the loss was more shocking.
Sure.
Yes.
Right.
The loss was more shocking.
Right.
But it was also the only loss in 25 years
Right.
that Tom Osborne had to a team that
Sure.
eventually ended
Right.
up with a losing record. Matt
Right.
Rule doesn't have that kind of a streak.
Right.
I get the logic behind it, but I don't make the comparison because one guy was in year 19 for TO.
Sure.
Matt Rule's in year 3. So I look at it a little bit differently, but I understand from the standpoint of, we just came out and just laid a complete egg.
Right.
I get that point.
Yeah.
Time will tell if that Minnesota game was a true egg laying.
It was an anomaly.
Right.
Yeah. So I say that because, I believe Minnesota was sucky. And I thought Nebraska should have won that game by 2 touchdowns, right?
Yes.
And so I feel much better after Iowa kicked their butts.
Yeah.
I'd love to see Michigan State go in there and win the game because, yes, they suck. Okay. Emmett Johnson is in some of the best shape of his life. Just look at him.
Yeah.
Look how much bigger he looks outside of his pads coming into the season.
Yeah.
And he's accelerating better. I don't know. We don't get those numbers that we used to get a long time ago where they would tell you what it was in terms of their acceleration numbers. But it looks like he's faster,
Yeah.
at least from 0 to 10, right? And also, he's breaking more tackles than he has. He looks a lot like Amir Abdullah right now, the way he's breaking tackles. And he's finishing his runs. He had 2 runs last week on plays that I didn't really like, but where he was short of the first down and powered through them. One was for a touchdown. So 3 times he did it. Twice when he needed short yardage and another time when he needed a touchdown. He is running harder, running faster, and looks stronger than he's looked his entire career. Because of that, I think he's fine.
I guess I didn't copy it over here, but PFF had the broken tackle numbers, and I'm just going off of memory,
right.
But Emmett was one of the top. I'll fudge 10 Power 4 backs in the country in broken tackles.
Well, I believe it. He's had back-to-back games where he's had double-digit broken tackles.
I mean, last week I think the number was around 80 of his 120-ish yards came after contact.
Yep.
And there were 2 plays that I remember specifically where, that play's dead.
Yeah.
And it ended up gaining 5, 6, 7, 8 yards. I mean, his ability, and it's not like a Earl Campbell physical style, though he did carry, 2 guys into the end zone on the last touchdown.
Yes.
It is a shiftiness. It's more of a Barry Sanders style. I'm not saying it is Barry Sanders,
Right.
but it's more of a shiftiness and a slipperiness than it is a physicalness, though he has shown that as well.
Yeah, it was the run where they had 3rd and 4.
Yeah.
And he got hit in the backfield.
Yeah.
He made a guy bounce off of him. Then after bouncing off him, he turned into a second guy and pulled that guy for the first down. Then we don't even talk about it as much, but you think back to when it's 3rd and 7, and they threw him the ball, and he turns his body through a tackle to get a first down. Multiple times he has physically gotten the first down for Nebraska after being stopped short. That was a nice defensive PBU there.
By the way, Minnesota's already in the
They
scoring
had
zone.
3 plays in a row that were over 20 yards. 3 plays in a row.
They're trying to tie it.
One should have been a pick, and it went right through the defensive back's hands, and the wide receiver caught it.
So 46 seconds left. Minnesota's got it in Michigan State territory, trailing by 7 in that game. All right, so let's talk about when Nebraska has the football.
Okay.
When you look at just some of the numbers here, obviously the one thing that stands out, USC defensively is not great against the run. They're in the 80s in EPA per rush, where Nebraska's in the top 40. And again, most of that is Emmett Johnson. Is that where Nebraska makes its most hay tonight?
So when you look at USC's stats defensively, you got to factor in what happened against Notre Dame, sure. But again, I'm going to reference this again. As the season's going along, they've gotten worse. So in the wins, got 19 sacks. In the losses, they have 2. All right? They got 2 in the same game. 3rd down conversions allowed. You know how good the number was. It's 36%, and it's been dropping every week for them. Their best, I'd say, athlete overall has 0 tackle for losses the last 3 games. This is the kid who's got the 7'6" wingspan, right? It's Eric Gentry. They talk 6'6", 225, incredible wingspan, has these great numbers, tackles for loss, 3 sacks, 0 TFLs the last 3 games, even though he has more snaps than anybody on the defense. Plus, he leads the team in missed tackles. Almost every one of them has happened in the last 3 games. They are regressing as a defense. So when we look at their numbers and talk about how good or bad they are, remember, they're getting worse. So Nebraska should be able to run the ball. I believe Nebraska should be able to go after their corners and take shots deep. It's one of my keys. You've got to go over the top and throw the ball against these guys. They will man you up, and they're going to say, okay, you beat me. I'm going to press you. You got to run by them. Isaiah Hunter and Dan Key are physical wide receivers. They have to get those guys off them and get over the top. Overall, this defense has got some talent. Don't get me wrong, but they have underachieved. Talk to anybody who covers this team on a daily basis. They will tell you all the money they spent on NIL to bring these guys in, it has been a huge failure. The majority of these guys they brought in, whether it's the defensive tackles or it's the guys in the linebacker spots, they have been a huge, huge disappointment.
What about the guys coming off the edge, Crawford and Shelby? They're among the leaders in sacks and TFLs. And, of course, we're a little PTSD around here when it comes to edge rushers and how they work against Nebraska's tackles.
Yeah.
What do you think of those two
So Crawford's
guys?
got 3.5 sacks, but again, not recently. And he's now down to 110 ranked in defensive ends, which that doesn't scare me a lot. You mentioned Stevens. Now, I do like Stevens because Stevens doesn't miss tackles. Now, he doesn't have big numbers, but he doesn't miss tackles. Matter of fact, I think he's the one out of all these guys that kind of gone up. He has got over 330 snaps already, which is crazy to think about, and has got a pretty good defensive rating over these last few weeks. So he's been going up. The other guy who's been going on is Jaden Walker. In the last 2 games, his snaps have gone up, and he's produced more. The reason that's happening, John, is because these guys he's putting on the money on, they're disappointed and said, we're tired of it. We're tired of these guys. We're going to start playing our other guys. So let's see what happens with USC's defense. Will they play some of these younger guys now because they're so disappointed in the NIL guys, or will they stick with them?
They got a couple of good safeties.
Very good safeties.
Talk about them a little bit. You got
Fitzgerald.
It's Fitzgerald and Gallegos,
if
right?
Fitzgerald's not the number 1 safety right now in terms of pure analytics, I don't know who is. He is both interceptions, tackles. There's one of those stats they have from PFF where like close coverage. He's one of the best in that. He's got the number 1 coverage grade for safeties in football. He is a great player. I'm sure he is a top 25 player in terms of this draft coming up. And then Nicholson, you mentioned him. Well, he's a cornerback. Nicholson is the cornerback. And then the other safety is Ramsey. Amari Ramsey.
Okay.
He's got an overall grade this season of 74.3, which is really good.
Yes.
If you're over 70% PFF, that's really good. So those 2 guys are really good. Now, by the way, Fitzgerald recently has given up 3 touchdowns. Recently, in the last 3 games, he's given up 3 touchdowns, as good as he is.
So how much does that affect the ability to throw deep? You say Nebraska's got to take deep shots.
Right.
So how do you keep those guys from being back there to knock that down or pick it off?
Well, they're not playing cover 4.
Okay.
They are basically saying we're playing with more like a Tampa 2, where, yes, those safeties are back there. They're too high, but those cornerbacks are basically playing man-to-man. And so you know how that spot is between the corner and where the safety is, that 20-yard. That's the throw you got to make today. And then I believe some of the in-breaking routes, because those safeties come downhill so much, and because I know they're thinking we got to stop him at Johnson first, I think you can get over the top because of that.
Are those throws you feel confident that Dylan can make tonight?
No, he hasn't. So do I feel comfortable? 4 weeks ago, I'd have said yes. For whatever reason, now he's struggled on all throws over 15 yards. I put those numbers out there earlier in the week. He's 2 of 11 the last 2 weeks in throws that are considered long. The StatCaster, those are throws that are over 15 yards. 2 of 11 on those. But if you go back and look against Michigan State, Maryland, and Michigan, he was 8 of 10 at 15 plus.
Yes.
So you know he can do it. He's I believe his grade is something like 68 for throws under 20 yards and 48 for throws over 20 yards. So for whatever reason, you can say he's struggling. Some wide receivers have had some drops, right? We saw that one by Hunter. But I think guys are open. They'll be there today. If he makes the throws, they'll get some over the top.
I believe it's the last 4 games. By the way, Minnesota has scored, so they're a PAT away from tying the game against Michigan State. I believe it's the last 4 games. Dylan has been under 60 in his PFF grade.
Yes, he has. He was the worst grade on the whole offense against Minnesota.
Yes.
43 or something like that. Yeah. And then one more thing about him.
Yeah.
And so with all that talk about that is that he was 30 of 34 in those 2 games from short to midfield. So unlike, like Taylor Martinez, he can make the long throw up sometimes and you go get it, but he couldn't make the short throws. At least he is making the short throws, so you got to give him some credit for that. It's 68.9 on passes from 10 to 19. It drops off after 20.
So do you believe that Dylan has to play at least a little bit above himself tonight if Nebraska's going to win?
He needs to play above himself the way he played the last month. He needs to play like he played against Michigan for a lot of that game because he made a lot of tight throws. Cincinnati, they were a lot of short throws, but he made them. And the throws he made, let's not downgrade him, because what happened in that last drive and those 3 throws he made on 3rd and 7, and then the pick throw he threw for the 3rd and 5 for that one, those were great throws. They're not long, but they're great. If he makes a bunch of those, they can win the game with them. I just believe you're going to get you got to have some explosives against this team, and that's the way to get it.
Participating sponsors of 1620 The Pregame are the Sedoro Law Group. Your outcome depends on what you do next. And by Blur Party, see how Blur makes every moment a party at blurevents.com. Got 2 segments left. We still got our keys and our picks to click coming up. But coming up next, we're going to take a deep dive into this AP losing streak, particularly from Matt Rule's side of things. Nebraska, it's 28 games. Matt Rule personally, dating back 3 coaching regimes, it's 18-game losing streak. We're going to dive a little bit into that when we come back. Presented by Chandler Conway, Nebraska personal injury lawyers you can trust, and Blur Parties. Learn more about all their events and future tailgates at blurevents.com. Drinking games are back underway. It's a blackout tonight at Memorial Stadium, and it's going to be dark by the time kickoff happens on 1620 The Zone and 1019 The Keg.
$16.20 The Zone and 1019 The Keg are live from Lincoln. Now back to $16.20 The Pregame.
All right, you got your beers in front of you.
Indiana just won't stop. It's 55-10 now. Indiana leading Maryland with 3 minutes to go in that game. It's 20-17, Florida leading Georgia in the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. That's got 8 minutes to go. Cal has come back on Virginia, 24-21 early fourth quarter. And Michigan State has the ball on 30-yard line, 24 seconds left now, tied 17-17. We'll see.
With their third-string quarterback.
Yes, third-string quarterback. Quarterback runs out of bounds. Good chance that game is going into overtime. All right, as we welcome you back in here to 1620 The Pregame. Matt Rule has gone 0 for his last 18 as a head coach in college football against the AP Top 25. His last win came in the AAC championship game in his final, second to last game because they played a bowl when he was at Temple. So he's now 2-23 lifetime with both wins at Temple against the AP Top 25. One of the interesting things, and I highlighted it in blue, at Nebraska has been the spread differential, which is the difference between what the spread is and what the final score ended up being. At Nebraska, against ranked teams, the spread differential is minus 12 points a game, meaning that Nebraska is failing to cover the number by almost 2 touchdowns, which is by far and away. At Temple, he overachieved, covering the spread by 11 points per game. At Baylor, it was basically a push. But here at Nebraska, and of course, a lot of that because you've got a blowout against Colorado, you got a blowout against Michigan,
and
you
Illinois, you were favored by 9.5,
and you were favored by 9.5. You got reverse cover or almost reverse covered there. You got blown out by Indiana. But I found that interesting, Michael, that they're also not coming close to the number. But I wanted to go just a little bit deeper, and only look at the teams that Rule has coached where it was near or above 500, right? Because the first years at Temple and Baylor, when they went a combined 22-21. Of course they were going to lose all of those games. So when you just look at the games, and this would count all three of his Nebraska years because they were 5-7, so they were near 500. They weren't above it, but they were near it. When you look at the numbers in near 5 or above 500 games, there have been 2 outright upsets. Of course, those were both at Temple.
Yep.
His teams have lost but covered 6 times.
Yeah, his ATS isn't great either.
But they have lost and not covered 8 times.
Yeah.
They have been favored in 2 games, both here at Nebraska, Iowa his first year, and Illinois last year, twice.
Right.
So when you look at those numbers, it's still a little shaky. Because
but for the ATS, you got to remember that it should be balanced over how good they are based off what the numbers made, right? So you're worse, you should be getting more points.
Right.
So Temple, that's why you think he would have had a better number there because they were Temple, and he should have been getting bigger numbers.
Right.
I was very surprised how bad his ATS was.
Yeah.
I thought it'd be better. I did. I know how bad he's done in terms of wins, losses against top 25, but I figured because the number would be big in a lot of places he was, especially early at Baylor, even early at Nebraska, but it still is not great.
How much would tonight help change the narrative?
Completely changes the narrative. I don't think personally that national people, when they give out the number, when it's a 0, they love to say the number. They love the 0. When there's 0 of this or whatever else, once the 1 goes, I think the narrative doesn't get mentioned. I don't think it does. I don't think the next time they play, say they play Iowa and Iowa's ranked.
Yeah.
Say they beat USC. They play. I don't think you're going to hear that. I don't think you'll hear the stat. But maybe they will.
Well, so there's a little bit of a deep dive into some of those numbers.
That's good stuff.
Of Matt Rule.
Yeah.
Looking out over, we can only see a tiny baby corner of Memorial Stadium up in the brand new, well, not brand new, it's a decade old now.
Yeah.
I see 2 people in red and the rest is black. I saw a picture from inside the stadium. The entire student section
is black.
Actually, they're in red.
I saw them. They were in line. When I got here, they were all in line, and they all, even the guys who normally wear the striped outfits, the bibs, they were in black. Yeah.
We did get the availability report. Remember, last week we were a little bit surprised when we heard about Gatula. Gatula's not on the availability report. There are 2 players for Nebraska listed as questionable: Quentin Ives and Dawson Merritt.
Oh,
questionable.
I want to see Dawson Merritt play. Usually when they're questionable, they're not playing.
So that's the latest on the availability report. Thanks to Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7, for posting that just a few minutes ago. All right, when we come back, we're going to put a bow on today's edition. We're going to look at our keys to the game. We're going to make our picks to click. I believe you picked Cunanan right first last week, right?
I did.
So I guess I have first pick.
Yeah, your first pick.
So I got first pick this week. And we'll join the flow across the street and try to get to the stadium on time so that Michael can set up his computer to watch Game 7 of the World Series. We'll be back to wrap up 1620 the pregame, presented by the Sedora Law Group. Your outcome depends on what you do next, and by Blur Parties. See how Blur makes every moment a party at blurevents.com. 1620 the pregame on 1620 the Zone and 1019 the Keg.
1620 The Zone and 1019 The Keg are live from Lincoln. Now back to 1620 The Pregame.
Michigan State trying to score first possession of overtime, 17-17 up in Minneapolis.
Double move.
And they got burned on the double move and got it. Was a holding or a PI?
I think they called holding. Oh, man, that should have been a PI. You saw when he grabbed his jersey.
Yep. So they'll have a first down.
Yep.
And
that was 3rd and 3 when they threw it down there. They were going to take a field goal, but not anymore.
All right. Well, we'll keep an eye on that one. 24-20. I think Georgia just took the lead on Florida.
Okay.
24-20. That game's about halfway through the fourth quarter. All right. Getting ready to go here. It's getting darker. And I'm not talking about the skies. I'm talking about the fans as they walk on by. Again, the people heeded the call. I give them credit.
Yeah, I thought it'd be like 90%. That's what I thought it would be.
Hey, you know what this tells me?
90%.
A lot of people got black coats in their closet.
So I did a question, a poll, and people said, yeah, I have black coat. 89% of people said they had black coats.
I have a black coat.
Yeah, I have a black puffy coat.
A puffy coat.
I have a black puffy coat.
I have noticed there's a lot of those black. Well, there's a black puffy coat.
Yep.
There's another black puffy coat. Yeah, those are very popular. Those
and
Land's End.
The best are too.
Is it Land's End or who is it that does those? Or the one with the mountain logo?
I just buy stuff from Marshall's.
That's probably a good
You're talking
idea.
about Pagonia? The Pagoni ones? The Pagonia?
I don't know what that is. You're asking me? My wife buys all my stuff.
I understand.
Picks to Click, brought to you by Chandler Conway. Nebraska personal injury lawyers you can trust, and Blur Parties. Learn about all of their events and future tailgates at blurevents.com. We'll do that first today because I don't want to forget, and then we'll get to our keys.
Okay.
Picks to Click. I mean, if I'm picking first, I'm picking Emmett Johnson. I need to score points. I was shut out last week. Completely, totally shut out. So I'm going to pick Emmett Johnson. That is my first pick to click.
All right, so my first pick to click, because I picked him to score a touchdown, is Heinrich Harburg.
Oh!
I picked him to score a touchdown, so I'm going with Heinrich Harburg. Field goal by they waved off that interference.
Oh, wow, PJ.
How often do they get that done?
They never do that.
They waved it off.
They never do that.
He literally grabbed his jersey, you can see it, and pulled it. Oh, wow.
Second pick to click. I'm going to go with King Miller.
The running back.
At USC.
Right.
I'm going to go King Miller. So I got two running backs in my picks to click.
I'm going to go with Lemon as my second pick.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. Mackay Lemon.
Third pick. I'm going to do it. Ja'Cory Barney. I think a special teams thing's happening tonight. It's hard to identify who's going to block a punt, but it is easy to identify who's returning a kick. I could have gone with Johnson as well, but I'm going to go with Barney.
I am going with Archie Wilson.
Oh,
I'm going with the punter
All
because I
right.
think there'll be a fake punt, and I think he'll be a part of the fake punt. I think he's going to punt well, but I think he's going to have a fake punt to convert something to steal his possession.
All right. Keys to the game. What are your keys? You always have. It's usually a musical theme.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that these are all California bands.
So this is not the Rolling Stones. I don't believe are from California.
So
they're
no, they're not.
The number one key is paint it black, be loud, because of the road numbers. And I know people, it doesn't matter. All the road numbers and how bad they are for USC, whether it's Maeva having fewer yards per attempt or them running the ball not as well or not converting as well on third down or any of those things, Nebraska's fans have to be loud. They got to be energetic, paint it black, be loud, take advantage of the home field.
Wow, a key for you, the people.
That's right. Number two, my friends, salt and pepper. Salt and pepper.
Push it.
What?
Push it
Push it
good.
good. We're throwing it deep. We're pushing it down the field.
Can they have time to push it down the field?
We're pushing it down the field. I mentioned the last two games,
Okay.
2 of 11 for passes over 15 yards, but he's had success in the past. Push it deep. Give your big wide receivers a chance. I love to see Quinn Clark get something long across the field. Push it good. And then the last thing is I compare USC to Jamie Foxx. The man can sing. He can dance. He does comedy. He can act. He does everything really
Jamie
well.
Foxx sings?
Oh, my God. You never heard Jamie Foxx sing? He plays the piano. He was Ray Charles, man. That's real.
Oh, that's
him
right.
singing.
Okay, I'm
He's
sorry.
a great singer.
I was thinking of Ali.
No, he didn't sing in Ali much. But
He did do The Champ is Here.
if you take away Jamie Foxx's ability to be a comedian, right, it takes away a lot of
Oh,
stuff.
wait, no, that's Will Smith that played Ali.
That
What
is
am I
correct.
thinking?
Yes, he played with Deanie Brown. He
Yeah,
played with Deanie Brown in the movie.
I'm sorry.
So black people are black people, John. So you got to take something away, right? Take something away from somebody really talented. Take away their running game. Third or fourth running backs. I know you got them before you pick the click. Take away the running
Yeah.
game. Make them look like they're on the road, right? 3.9 yards a carry. Take away the run game. If they're going to throw it, they're going to complete passes, but take away the run game.
My keys, first key, I've had this one locked in since last Sunday. He who derps least wins. We have 2 offensive play callers,
Yes.
both born in the Big 12.
Right.
Very smart. They're good at offense.
Yep.
But they do have a tendency to sometimes get a little too cute.
Yes.
Thus, when they call certain plays, I swear they're just going derp, 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 and then something weird happens.
Right.
He who derps least wins. You have been banging on it all week. The wide receiver pass, the reverse pass against Notre Dame
The
in the
sprint
rain.
out on 4th and inches.
Right. Last week, I thought Dana went insane on 4th down. I don't know what he was thinking on some of those.
And they worked, but they looked ugly.
They looked ugly, and the last one actually led to a turnover. So he who derps least wins. Second key, breaking news with friends. Here's the stat I wanted from Emmett Johnson. 44 missed tackles. 5th in the country among all tailbacks in the nation. With Raiola having a 113th PFF passing grade this season and those 4 straight sub-60 games,
Right.
really need Emmett Johnson. He needs to be your friend tonight. And then on the run defense side, do something about that interior run game. We mentioned the numbers in the first hour. Trojans average 7 yards a carry between the tackles. Nebraska's allowed 6 yards a carry between the tackles. Got to have your friends there. Got to plug up that middle. Third key, no late night calls, as in house calls.
Yes.
Big plays.
Right.
USC is top 20 in every big play stat. Nebraska, top 12 in plays above 20 yards, but they have been a little bit leaky lately. Maryland had a couple. Minnesota had a
10
couple.
in the last 3 weeks.
So got to plug up those leaks a little bit. And then finally, always remember a change of clothes. Change things up.
Yes.
Get exotic with those pressures.
Right.
I think we saw a little bit of that on the last drive by Northwestern when they pressured the quarterback and forced that ball out early. Those are my 4 keys. I got 31-21 USC, but I think the pathway to victory is splash plays, special teams, and havoc. Nebraska's got to have some havoc tonight. If they get it, they'll win.
I have Nebraska 33-30 in double overtime.
You just want to stay up late.
Double overtime, baby. Minnesota won.
We'll talk to you later.